So, yesterday's game wasn't very ideal, was it? But after watching the game again, I got a new perspective. I saw things a bit differently, and it's quite clear to see that we are the definition of a team that's a work in progress. There were clear positives as well as clear negatives that we have to get out of our game. Is Pochettino's 3 at the back system the biggest culprit here? Why is Pochettino using a back 3 even though we never saw this throughout pre-season? Why did we struggle to create chances against a 10-man West Ham? And is a new striker needed before this window closes? My friends, let's investigate how yesterday's game went down. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you guys want to see more deep dives and analysis like this, you know where the like button is, and of course, share your opinions in the comments too. Now, comparing our XG against West Ham had 1.85. We had 2.57, and normally that is enough to win a game like this on paper against a team like West Ham that sits deep in defense. However, let's look at the stats, but let's compare first half stats against second half stats. And I'm sure you guys are starting to see a bit of a picture right now, but there was a massive fall off statistically in that second half compared to the first half. We're noticing key things like dribbles falling down a lot. First half we completed 10 out of 14, second half only 5 out of 7. In terms of passes, first half 381 completed, second half 335, nearly like 50 passes less. Crosses we had 5 out of 16, second half 5 out of 18, and in terms of possession lost, we lost it 63 times in the first half, but we lost it 13 times more with 76 in the second half. And let's remember, we had a man advantage against a 10-man West Ham for over like half an hour. Now this is where we start to investigate things, my friends, because for me, once Chukwuemeka went off, our shape and our flow of our game was drastically different. I also think that Pochettino made some incorrect decisions in terms of subs that he made. And I think these two factors combined, and it encouraged this like negative, flat football that we've been accustomed to now for the past few seasons. But let's focus on this 3 at the back. Now I want to say this real quickly, but Pochettino believes in an asymmetrical style of coaching, which basically means that this is like positional play with a focus on overloads on either side of the field. It's about having players positioned properly between the lines and in the half spaces, and you create those overloads depending on where the ball is on the side of the field. And the key thing to remember about Pochettino's ever-evolving team shape is that the shape evolves depending on our pressing, our defending of the ball, our build-up, and our attack as well. Now, our pressing shape was a 4-1-4-1. So basically, Cole spreads wide, Disasi, Silva in the base, Gusto here, Gallagher in front. Of course, Enzo and Carnes drop into midfield, Sterling and Ben hugging the width here. And we can see this pressing structure in this image here. Of course, Sterling's getting ready to press Emerson, Enzo's the ball carrier, Carnes is near Prowse, and of course, Mudryk can press either one of the West Ham centre-backs when they receive the pass, and Gallagher's there just to follow the direction of the ball, just to give us like that additional type of like ball-winning strength and to win any second balls. Now our build-up structure was very interesting. So Silva right here, Cole, Disasi, they spread wides, Gusto pushes up, Gallagher, he's around here, and then Carnes and Enzo are more in these half spaces around here. And then Ben, Sterling, they play a bit closer now to Nicholas Jackson. Now there's two important things here. As you guys are noticing, look at the numbers we have in central areas. And this is the main game plan here. We want to overload West Ham's shape in the central areas because West Ham are looking to defend off the ball with a compact shape and protect themselves in the middle, right? And now, going back to my asymmetrical overload point, Malo Gusto has the license now to create overlaps, out wides, or in the middle when he has to. And here's where Levi Cole shines, because he can step up, of course, to create like another line for our build-up right here. And he has a license, due to his quality, to advance even higher up the field, to kind of be like a makeshift fullback when he has to be. Like we're seeing the examples I'm mentioning about Levi Cole. Literally, here's like the overlapping fullback right now, getting ready to play a cross and behind. And there's like 3 players getting ready now to move into the box. Obviously, Gusto will stay deeper when that happens. And of course, it works either side just like this as well too. But this is the principle of Pochettino's build-up. Now, depending on how West Ham pressed, of course, we would just like evolve our build-up structure. So here, a bit of like a 4-2 situation. And Levi has that license, of course, to step into the next midfield line, of course, to give us like an additional passing option. Sometimes we would form like a makeshift midfield 3 as well, just to give us more passing options to play through West Ham's lines. And this is where things get exciting when we now attack, because we kind of create like a 5-3-2. So basically Ben pulls wide here, Sterling wide, of course, Carnes, Enzo in these areas right here. Gallagher pushes up too. Our whole defense moves up as a block. And then you have Cole and Gusto. You can make those inverted runs in the middle or out wide. And that is essentially the principle of our play. The midfield rotations between Enzo, Connor and Chukwuemeka were working beautifully against West Ham in that first half. We were constantly dragging their midfield apart in those central areas. And remember, my friends, it's all about having as many men in these zones as humanly possible. But now let's focus on how we can attack. So by building up like this, by spreading our centre backs, of course, we have the option to either find Augusto free by himself in this area. And most importantly too, my friends, is opening up these spaces here between the lines. So that's what we're trying to do against West Ham. Because look how we're forcing them back right now. You know, their midfield is far behind from their defence. And this is how we created tons of issues for them in that first half. Now, I mentioned that point about the book structure. By having like a numerical advantage in these areas. We then have 2 attacking players here who are on the outside of West Ham's defense. Then we have Gusto that can then go into these zones by himself here. And I think Kobo's here somewhere on this other side. But my friends, one of the most effective forms of attack were these line breaking passes past West Ham midfield lines right here. And, you know, Enzo and Carnes and Conor Gallagher at times as well too were so good at finding these little positions in the half space areas in behind West Ham. And it's like you're then taking out like what, 4 West Ham players like straight out the game. And then it allows you to play past West Ham's midfield lines. Look, we've taken out 4 players here from 1 pass. And you want to play like this because when Enzo is receiving the ball in space like this, it just encourages movement after movement. I mean, look, Raheem Sterling is getting ready to run in behind to attack the space here. Nico Jackson is marshaled between 2 West Ham centre-backs, just pinning them back right there. Plus we have more overlapping support coming from Carnes and Ben holding the width on the opposite flank. And it's these types of strategies that are effective when it comes to breaking down defensive teams that don't want to move their blocks. And this type of football produced our best moments. I mean, we know Carnes absolutely buries this in the bottom right corner. But my friends, look at all the options we have inside the box here. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's against like 8 West Ham players inside their own box. Like, you have to create these moments to break these types of teams down. Again, we create the overloads down the left hand sides right here. And when you have someone like Levi Colwill in these positions, stepping into midfield, he plays a line-breaking pass to Sterling, who's absolutely unmarked. And as we know, Sterling turns, attacks the spaces, and wins the penalty. And we should have made it 2-1 before the half-time whistle ended. So now you're thinking to yourself, wow, we've absolutely dominated and destroyed West Ham. Surely we're set to win this game in the second half now by a considerable scoreline. But some things went against us. Carnes was not involved, and that kind of affected our team shape. And as I mentioned before, I think Pochettino made the wrong subs because we started to force the game a lot more. And I'm going to break down the key mistakes that I saw in the second half. And let's start things off by discussing Mudryk. Now, when he first came on, he basically was fulfilling the same role that Carnes was doing earlier on. Obviously, you see Ben Chilwell here just holding the width. And as you're noticing too, my friends, we are creating those overloads against West Ham on the left hand side. And playing like this created options in behind for the movement of Mudryk to use his pace to try and stretch that West Ham back line. And we still have good numbers just occupying these spaces here. And now this is where we see bad Mudryk. It wasn't fully his fault because as you can notice straight away, look, 2v1 against Mudryk. We weren't creating these spaces for him during pre-season, and this is why he was quite bad for us last season because he had no space to play. You think to yourself like Jackson, pull out, or Enzo, move a bit forwards, or even Caicedo. come to help him out, but I think everyone looks quite lost at this point in time. And this is West Ham's second half game plan. They want Mudryk to be as wide and as isolated as possible, because all he can do now is put crosses inside the box, and they feel like their Zoomers and Ogbonas and many others can deal with any aerial threat that we pose against them. I felt like our second half build up was super flat as well too. Like, look right here. Look at that amount of space. Like, no one in midfield is dropping deeper to be a passing option to help us play through their lines. Everything's really flat, and there's more focus for the ball to be played out wide compared to finding those central passes like we did in the first half. And I noticed like little details like this on second viewing, but look at Levi Cole pointing to Silva to make that pass to Caicedo right here. Now, in this game, Silva actually plays the pass now, a flat pass to the right hand side, and Cole was really frustrated by that, because as you guys can see right here, there was the potential to create like a little bit of an overload opportunity, because one of the few occasions we had 3 guys in the line on the left hand side. And it goes to show that the passing decision making from Silva wasn't great. Disasi kept giving the ball away at times, and it culminates in the goal we concede, and Caicedo's introduction made things even worse. But let's see that goal that we conceded first. Now, this goal was really unfortunate because we get caught giving a turnover away, and just as Disasi gives the ball away quite sloppily, that's when Cole and others were getting ready to push up. So by the time they had to come back, look at the position now of someone like the experienced Michael Antonio, because again, he's seen the gaps and distances between Cole and Disasi, and he's going to attack the space threat. He's going to take advantage. And it's kind of too late for anyone. And when Disasi got close, he didn't do enough to push Antonio away. He kept backing off and backing off and backing off. And obviously Antonio then decided to take his own luck and scored a wonder goal. But the risky thing about playing this style of football is that if you aren't putting pressure on the ball, you're very susceptible to getting hurt by balls over the top or balls in behinds. So you can never be sloppy in passing out from the back. And now I touched upon Caicedo. Like, again, not his fault he had a bad debut, but as I kept mentioning, I felt like we kept forcing our play instead of moving up as a block like we did in the first half. So as you guys can see here, look how far away these guys are. And it's just like the distance is far too big for Caicedo to find anyone with a pass between the lines without the West Ham players intercepting that pass. As we get better as a team, I'd imagine that we can take those risks, but because it's Caicedo's first game in a long time, I felt like we got punished for that. Again, massive distances for the passing receivers, and because Caicedo was still rusty. He got dispossessed 8 times against West Ham. He made 1 big error for the penalty. He gave away 2 fouls to put pressure on the team, and his pass completion rate was around 84%. So again, a very difficult debut for him. But when your pivot guy, of course, is a bit rusty, that really affects the nature of the team. What happens when every bad factor in the second half culminates together? Well, it produces this type of football that I'm hoping to move away from. As you can see, it becomes hope and pray and cross. That's all we're relying upon right now. Hope, pray, cross type of football. And West Ham with Soucek, Ogbonna, Zuma, so many powerful defenders and strong aerial threats for them. We had no chance in hell to do anything. I think bringing on Burstow just encourages negative style of play. I hate the fact that there was no overlaps being created like we saw earlier. I felt like Noni's introduction wasn't great either. Sterling, when he received in certain spaces, he was like receiving, turning and attacking that space, and he completed like 9 dribbles. Like, he was very offensive and direct against West Ham. And I felt like Noni was just finding the wrong positions, and most times when he did receive, he was playing a pass backwards. He wasn't turning and attacking his man, but it makes sense because again, he's only now coming back to full fitness. You can see why our numbers fell off in the second half playing this way, and you can see the massive contrast in play between the first half and the second half. Like, you're only going to create low expected assists, right? So again, I hope we move away from this. And to give you guys my conclusion, I think there's like a few things we have to do. I think we might have to sign one player in the window, and that has to be a guy that can play as a 10/winger, because most times in this league, we're going to have more possession, as we've seen already, and we have some of the highest, progressive stats, passing stats, etc. already, which you guys are seeing on screen. But because we'll have more of the ball, we need more players that can affect the game in very compact and congested areas. we have to make sure we keep our central overloads extremely strong, because not only can we create those wide overloads for either like a Corwall or like a Gusto or anyone else, but most importantly, we can find some better connections to Nicholas Jackson. And I feel like Nicholas Jackson needs more support leading attacks, because he's isolated a few times here and he shows his quality, but you know, he's missing Nkunku so much. I think Nkunku is by far our biggest miss of the season so far. He'd be adding so much in terms of efficiency in front of goal and just keeping the tactical strength going like throughout the entirety of the game. And I guess I'd say this real quick, but Pochettino, you should have brought on Ian Maatsen. Ian would have been that perfect replacement to either hold the width on the left hand side or give us like better control in those central areas. So that was a bit of a miss. But again, he's still learning about the team, and I feel like we'll get even better, because we saw a ton of promise in that first 50 minutes of the game. So my friends, that is today's video over. I hope you guys enjoy this. If you guys want to see more like investigations and breakdowns, let me know in the comment section and show your support with that like button, because it helps the algo and all that type of YouTube stuff, right? So my friends, I am LeanyFC, this is BlueLionsTV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos.